Hello. Can everybody hear me? Check, check. What's happening? How's everybody doing? Waiting on Phil. I went ahead and threw myself in here. See what was going on. How we all doing? Let's see. Billy Jenkins, Mr. Bill Bradley, Gendra. Speaking of Bill Bradley, I started working on my Aki setup today.
I'm not late.
You're not late.
You're early. You're 3 minutes and 50 seconds early.
You know, I saw people were hanging out and waiting, so.
That's very rude of you, Smithy.
Be hating on my skis there, Gendra. So get those big foot ass feet out of frame. I was anxious to get it going, man.
Yeah? Yeah, but it makes me always look late, even though I don't normally am.
How are we feeling now that we have survived the COVID?
We are feeling much better than we were. We insist on referring to us as we.
Nice.
I have all my taste back.
Nice.
I have about 50%.
You got lucky then.
Yeah, I only lost taste for less than a week, but and it was only certain things. But my sinuses are still jacked up, and my sense of smell is very peculiar. I feel like I lost, for lack of a better word, 50% of my smell.
Yeah.
But I started smelling things that I don't normally smell. And my employer's wife was there today, and I had been around her all morning, and then right around 1 in the afternoon, she stood next to me. I was like, "Oh, you smell really nice today." She goes, "This is the same thing I wear every day for the past 6 months." And I was like, "Well, I've never smelled it. So I don't know." And everyone's always like, "Oh, you're a smoker. You can't smell anything." That is not true. I'm sure it is diminished to some degree. It's got to be. But I usually smell everything. So I don't know what's going on with my head right now.
It does goofy stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it does. So what did I miss so far?
Nothing. I was just talking about how I started getting the Aki setup together.
Excellent. Today? Is there a delivery date?
No, not yet. I went and bought. So I'm doing a sand topsoil mix, and I got some bigger terracotta pots and broke those up. Got some flat rocks that my parents had floating around on their property.
Cool.
Over by the Smith Farm shed.
Yeah.
So I went and got those and had a piece of driftwood looking stuff that I put in there, but I want to add a little more. I want to fill it out a little more with some more wood or bark or something.
Awesome.
But I got Bill had an extra Pro Sol at his place, so he sent it down to me, and so that's what I got that locked in there today. And
good. Excellent.
So we're in business.
Nice.
Now I just need to finish it, let it dry out some more, because that soil, of course, in the bag is
super humid. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let me ask you: did you did not mix the sand in yet, right?
I mixed, together. I mixed them both.
Okay. I was going to say is if it was still just the topsoil, then you could lay that out on a cookie sheet, put that Pro Solar on there, and just bake it, and then fluff it every couple hours. When you come home from work, fluff it before you go to bed, fluff it,
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. But that sounds great, bro. It sounds like you're going to have honestly, fantastic setup. But just a tip that I discovered on my own, and I could be crazy. People might call me crazy, but when I was breaking up rock and slate and shale for the Cerastes, I had an old towel that was dry my dog off towel.
Mm-hmm.
And it already had tears and holes and was fraying on the sides. So I wound up taking these pieces that I originally got these stones from. So, all right, let me rewind. I go to the nurseries,
Mm-hmm.
and they have these mounds of stone.
Yeah.
and they're huge
like
and
hardscapes stuff.
Yeah, hardcore hardscape stuff. And what I'll do is there's always fragments, like just bits and pieces. I mean, stuff as small as the eraser on a pencil to as big as a laptop, right? And I'll take like as much as I can carry in my hands, and I'll go up to the front and I'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm doing a snake enclosure. How much can I pay for this by the pound?" And like half the time they're like, "Dude, it's crumbs. Just take it."
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of cool stuff that way. But a couple of those big pieces, I take the old dog towel and I'll tie it up, and I'll take it and I'll whack it on concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you use like a hammer or a mallet, you get the impact marks of that instrument, right? And at the same time, the shards and the shrapnel is going to fly in every direction. Whereas if you take the towel and you're smacking it on concrete, it's going to crack more ornately, and your shrapnel doesn't fly everywhere because the towel's containing it. The only thing is, though, you can only do it a handful of times because it's so sharp it makes holes in the towel, and before you know it, you're leaking rocklets everywhere. So I found that I like doing that a lot.
Yeah, I still need to put a small water bowl in there. I need to probably get a dubia roach colony started again.
Sweet.
I'm not particularly excited about the dubia thing, honestly. I know they're not difficult. They're just, I don't know. I'm
not a roach guy. Oh, that's the worst.
And that's so not particularly stoked about that, but I'm hoping Alan can send me some roaches with them, like just to start a colony or something.
Sure. Were they taking crickets at all or no?
I'm sure they are.
Okay.
And I have plenty of access to those here, so
nice, good. How big's the enclosure?
It's 200 quarts, so it's about 50 gallons.
Sweet, good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a tub with a portal, or
yeah. I've got literally, I'm staring at 2, 4, like 6 Python portals that I don't use that are just stacked in my garage right now, and
nice.
Today was the day. I was like, I already got it. Why not? That'll work until they're old enough for me to bump them up into something more serious from black box.
Cool.
Which is the plan. Like when they get to adult size, I may go all out and do the 6-footer or something.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But I definitely want to fill it out a little more. Utilize as much of the space as possible, especially the inside. That space efficiency that we're always talking about.
Oh yeah.
Making sure I'm taking full advantage of that. So
yeah, maximizing the highest volume of surface area.
Yes.
Yeah. I did not promote tonight. I did not talk to anyone about tonight because Facebook and Instagram have been
they struggled today.
So I mean, did anybody know what they were doing? Was it just like maintenance or something?
I don't know. So they had that whole whistleblower thing happen where this lady went on 60 Minutes and basically said, like, yeah, Facebook's purposefully making everybody angry, which is just confirming our suspicions anyways. But then somehow, coincidentally, whether you want to think it is or isn't, Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp all went down, like completely for the better part of the day. So
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely saw a lot of good memes, like the memes that made it through today's nonsense of social media. They were pretty entertaining. I couldn't refresh a feed. I couldn't get. And here's the thing:
all my messages went down and everything.
Crazy is I've been meaning to ask anybody else who has an iPhone. My iPhone was acting weird today too, and like I'd use a voice dictation a lot just because like I'm at work and like I'm walking while I'm doing stuff. I don't have the time to necessarily stop and like bang out a paragraph. So like I'll articulate, comma, full stop, exclamation point, whatever I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm like walking from like point A to point B at work, and that wasn't working. It wouldn't let me switch between like numbers and symbols and stuff. It was really weird. And my email was super spotty too. So I don't know.
Zuck. Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure. Like our internet here has been acting up lately, like more so than it was before. So maybe Zuck's reach goes far beyond just Facebook, and he literally controls the entire like internet.
We'll see. What I was thinking is me just taking my tinfoil hat off for a minute. I was thinking that if the Zuck apps are doing maintenance or service, and they're all doing it at the same time, it would make sense that internet providers would also do it at the same time because people are not using it. You know, there's probably the least amount of bandwidth in the country
Solar flares.
ever. Yeah, I heard that on I saw that on Instagram. Someone was like, "There's a solar flare." Then I saw something else about some volcano erupting and the ash is going to kill us all. So Facebook's just going to let us die.
No, it's either that or anything we breathe, eat, or drink is going to give us cancer. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy your time while you have it, people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go lick a 5G tower.
Other good news is the magazine is pretty much done. I just got to finish the cover. I got to finish the black box ad, and then I will send it to you, and we can read it over and get it out. So
excellent. And then
it's been a little hectic on that front.
It's been an interesting month.
Just motivation wise, and hadn't had a whole lot, honestly. But I had a psych appointment today, and we're looking into why that might be the case. And
okay,
we'll see.
Good.
We'll see, there's a possibility that I have ADD or ADHD, which would not surprise me in the least. But I got a test to take.
I think that I think that's pretty good that you have a subtle case of it, sir.
I don't know if it's all that subtle, but.
Look, I've spent copious amounts of time with you in person. I would say it's fairly subtle. You know what I mean? You're not sitting at the table in the restaurant organizing the salt shakers. You know what I'm saying? So apparently, my lovely girlfriend says that there's also an asteroid as big as our planet heading towards us.
Yeah. What else is new? Maybe Bruce Willis and the boys will hop on a rocket and go and blow it up so it splits in half and goes around us.
Anna Marie and I were actually just talking about how his daughter has aged beautifully, and she's still an attractive woman.
He's got like 5. Which one?
What's her name? Liv?
Oh, Steven Tyler's daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant Bruce Willis.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I immediately went to Aerosmith. Yeah. Sorry. Anytime I hear about asteroids, I just immediately think of Aerosmith. And him with the same mic stand on the asteroid.
Yep. He's steering it with the mic.
Anna Maria says that it's not landing for another 10 years. Don't worry. Oh, man.
What are you smoking on tonight?
So I went into the humidor and I wanted to find something that was lighter just to kind of see how much pep in my step I can get. And I was like, you know what? I have all these Churchill Habano Cohibas that are from Cuba. I know the guy who physically bought them in Cuba. They're not a giant Churchill. I mean, they're fairly good, but it's got a hole in it. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Like a clean hole?
Like a clean hole. And I was like, son of a bitch. So I literally, I didn't dump it out of my bed, but I almost dumped the whole humor. I started pulling out every stick I had that's in there that wasn't wrapped in cellophane. And I did not find any other holes. So I'm wondering.
It could have just been one that got in there and died.
Yeah.
That was it, so.
And that's honestly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it was probably there for years. Because, I mean, I've had these for at least 3 years since he gave them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got like 6 of them. So if there was bugs, you know.
Yeah, so we're talking about tobacco beetles, which I think we mentioned previously. Yeah. But if you ever go into a cigar shop and you notice perfectly drilled, like it looks like someone took the smallest drill bit possible and drilled perfectly pristine little holes into your cigar, that's tobacco beetles.
I don't know if can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, they will absolutely destroy a box of cigars if the temperatures are right. Typically above like 75, I think, is when they really start to thrive. So those things are a real pain. Fortunately, we've only ever had, I think, 1 box where I noticed any serious amount of tobacco beetles. Other than that, I haven't seen any since. So it's not very common. I don't think it's nearly as common as it used to be. But
yeah, I would agree. I just took the band off because I wanted to see if there was any markers on the band. Like a proof mark from Nicaragua saying it's fake or something.
Yeah.
But no, these are real. This is a real one. So.
Oh, speaking of bands, So I got this big old Buffalo Trace bottle, right?
Oh yeah.
And I figured what I would do is fill it up with bands, like completely, and then like we can do kind of like what they do with the staff thing at Daytona, where we raffle it off, like auction it off. That money goes to ASF or somebody else, whoever we decide.
Cool.
That whoever wins it, then signs it, and then the following year it gets auctioned off to the next person, and the next person, and the next person.
I love it
until it can't be filled no more. So
it's fantastic.
I'm on my way with getting bands in there. So
nice. Are you putting every band in there, or just the ones you smoke?
Okay. Well, all the ones I smoke. Yeah. So
yeah. All right. Cool.
I also thought about seeing if we could send it to Adeline and maybe have her paint on it, but then you got to paint over the label and stuff, and I don't know that we should
Yeah.
If people are going to be signing it and stuff, it's probably best that it's just as is. So
yeah, I'd probably leave it be. What are you smoking tonight?
So we got in these new Garcia and Garcia My Fathers. So this is a $30 My Father. We're gonna see.
Justin spent a big money on a cigar. That's
we're
crazy.
Gonna see if it's worth $30. I'm trying not to be biased. I haven't gone and looked at any reviews or anything. With my discount, it's not $30. It's considerably cheaper. So I figured I'd try one out. One of the other guys that works at the shop said he read on them, and reviews were pretty meh. So what I was going to do is I was going to talk about pairings and how to get the most out of it. Like I had some almonds, I had some dark chocolate, and of course my fat ass ate both of them long before the show.
What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Even made it the ride home.
Oh my gosh! You're supposed to buy two, so you can have them on the ride home, and then still have them for the show.
I was like, I can just tell people; they don't have to see it. I don't have to be sitting here eating almonds and dark chocolate for me to just basically tell you, like, oh yeah, that makes it taste better. You got to use unsalted raw almonds. Well, not raw because they're poisonous, but like unsalted almonds. Like you can get at the store, you get them at Walgreens in a little packet for like $1. And then just dark chocolate of any kind, be it Dove, whatever.
Vic says that I should smoke the Beetles. I have seen someone do that. And
it makes it sound like one of those little poppers that you throw on the ground.
Exactly. It sounded like there were pop rocks in his cigar. Yeah.
Adds flavor.
I will say this. I just toasted this Cubano, and I don't know if it's my post-COVID fucked up sinuses, but it smells so good. It smells like, what's the word I'm looking for? It smells like a seasoned toasted bread. It smells so good. So here we go. By the way, did we talk about our wonderful sponsors?
We have not yet.
And they're here.
Because actually, this is episode 93 of Snakes and Stogies, which is brought to you by Puget Sound Pythons. Up in the corner, above the red chair here. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, when the two of those three are working. Please check them out. Give them a follow. They're doing cool stuff. They're good people. Happy to call them friends. Happy to call everyone that's in the chat friends. Anybody who's listening, All right, so I did a cold draw. If you ever see any cigar reviews and they talk about a cold draw, that is them drawing it as if it were lit, but it's not. So you usually do get some flavors out of there that you won't get when it's lit. This one tasted like honeycomb cereal without any milk, like dry honeycomb cereal.
Nice.
Tastes just like that honeycomb. Maybe a little bit of like a tea, like an unsweet tea, a tea leaf sort of flavor. Maybe a little bit of hay.
Okay.
Definitely that honeycomb cereal though. And then what Phil was talking about with toasting is basically you don't want to, when you're lighting a cigar, you don't want to throw the cigar right into the actual like blue part of the flame. You just want the heat from the top of that to slowly sort of toast and get that foot of the cigar sort of going. Like right now, I don't think y'all can see it, but cigar isn't even anywhere close to the blue of that flame. I'm about to actually light my headphone set on fire.
Don't do that.
That would be bad.
No bueno.
And the point is to get it lit and burning at the lowest possible temperature because you want the best flavors out of it.
Very true. Oh, Brennan's in the group, and now we got Eric Hernandez too.
Yeah.
Randy, what's going on, bud?
So usually if I'm smoking something new, I will light it with matches or I will light it with a cedar spill, just a little strip of cedar or something that burns a little cooler, soft flame more or less. Just because you do get more flavor out of it, out of a softer flame. Torches burn crazy hot. Your standard match does not. So,
well, either this cigar was rolled like shit, or that little weevil in there destroyed something in the core, because it is incredibly hard to draw, and it does not. The smoke is almost untastable to me right now, but the cap tastes really gross. Like gross, like almost like rotten. So I'm gonna let it chill for a minute, and then I'll probably fire it back up again, and I may have to abort.
And I'm jumping on this grenade for you people. I'm smoking the $30 cigars so that you don't have to. So I can tell you not to waste your money.
That's very true. A gentleman.
Price has no bearing on if something's good or not.
Yeah.
This is something new. I haven't had it yet. I was actually specifically waiting for a show, and I let these sit a little while on the shelf before I bought one and smoked one, because I do find that if you buy one and open up a fresh box, like pull the plastic off and open it up, they usually taste a little off at first. They need a couple days. Typically, I try to give them at least a week or so to really sort of air out some and off gas and settle. So
sure. Bill Bradley's talking about with pipes, definitely a bit of a technique, and he's referring to using match and lighting the actual pipe so that you're not scorching what you're trying to enjoy. And I think we definitely need to have some pipe action in the near future. We have to get Bill on for that. I mean, he's one of the biggest pipe guys that we know. But just bringing up pipes, the more I think about that cigar, and it's gotta be a combination of the cigar being rolled shitty and my COVID sinuses.
It's a Cuban, man.
It's a Cuban, right. That
rolling is not their forte.
Yes, and how I said that it tasted almost rotten. It tastes, anybody who has had overly dried out pipe tobacco, and it's like
stale.
It's stale sweetener, like it's that's what it tastes like. So it may just be an old cigar. I mean, who the hell knows when this thing was freaking rolled? You know, it could have been rolled in '76 for all I know. But
this thing is actually surprisingly sweet.
Like they did a subtle.
No. Like, it's just naturally sweet. I haven't looked up the blend because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Didn't want to spoil anything. I wanted to.
Right. You didn't want to stumble across their notes.
I didn't want confirmation bias.
Yeah,
I wanted an unperforated opinion of my own.
Yeah, that's good.
This is interesting off the bat, though.
Yeah. I was going to say something about tobacco. Now I forgot. I lost my train of thought. So I've noticed that a lot of the guys and gals in our group, they're switching to a Pelican case or a Storm case or a plastic airtight container, a hard shell container, much like you'd use for storing a camera or, flying on an airplane with valuables. You put it in this hard shelled foam
right, like
case,
an OtterBox or something.
Like an OtterBox or something, right. They're switching to those as a humidor. And most of you who have listened to the show for a while know that I switched all my humidors to those. Pelican brand exclusively because I'm a snob and I like it. But I did notice that I got infinitely more plumage on the cases that I didn't burp frequently. And by frequently, I mean at least maybe once, if not twice a month. I'm not doing it every day. but there was a couple of cases that I just left and I hadn't opened for weeks on weeks on weeks, and there was definitively more plumage than usual for me. But I also noticed that I don't know if this was subconscious, I started getting more cigars in cellophane and keeping them in the cellophane, while in the past, I used to take them out of the cellophane, let them air. I think, me personally, if you're going to exclusively use the Pelican style cases and not burp them regularly, it might be a great idea to keep your cellophane, just so that it's not directly
It's
exposed.
another layer of protection.
Right.
I mean, it is permeable.
Mm-hmm.
It is breathable because it is
Right.
cellophane, so it does exchange, like air can pass through it.
Yeah. Even
but
if
it
you
is
just
another layer of protection.
Yeah, even if you just crack the end and open just the end, it's still better than it making full contact with another naked stick next to it. So, just a minute observation of mine, because I have all those Pelicans.
Well, I mean, that's like, that just speaks to the sealability of those things. You know, with most wooden humidors, you at least get some exchange, you know, because especially if it's one with all the windows and stuff on it, I guarantee you there's a leak in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Be it around the hygrometer, be it around the windows, whatever. Which is why I like solid top humidors now. Mine's acrylic, so it seals with magnets, so that's different. But you know, if you're aging cigars, definitely do like a cedar humidor. If you're not, realistically, a Tupperware, a small cooler, a Pelican case, whatever, that's going to do, you know. And the whole aging cigars thing, that, you know, not all cigars are meant to be aged, kind of like wines. Not all wines are meant to sit on a shelf for 1 billion years until it gets drunk. Cigars are really no different. I mean, yeah, it is nice to sit on some for a while and let them mellow out, especially some of the some of the darker stuff might be a little more bitter. The really oily stuff, but for the most part, I mean, they do. I think it was Trey, I think, in the group, was smoking like a Monte Cristo from like the 70s or something, and I really wondered how that had any flavor left in it, because you think about it, the oils and stuff eventually disappear, and that's a big contributor to the flavors and stuff. So it's, from what I've been told and what I've read, 5 years is about sort of the max you want to really be aging stuff. I mean, I'm sure you can go later if you want to with something like an Opus X. It would probably actually do it a lot of justice. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that it's like, I'm here to smoke them, not sit and stare at them and tell myself no constantly. But unless it's something limited, unless it's something rare, even then it's like you can't sit on it forever. You gotta smoke it. So
sure.
I don't know.
The one thing that I've wanted to try, and I haven't. I'm sure I could just go on Amazon and buy one. I mean, I don't actively pursue it, but there are those plexi or just clear plastic cylinders that you keep sugar or flour in, and it has a little gasket top. And it has the metal latch. Do you remember? I don't know if it's not. It reminds me of the barbershop one where they keep the barber saw with the combs, but it's not. It's, you lift the lid, and there's a stem with a plate, and like there would be like Twizzlers or
Lay
candy
out or something.
And when they come out, they come like this, and you can slide a candy out or whatever. I wanted to get one of those and put a Boveda pack at the bottom, so it's out of the way, and then just lower it down. I thought that could be kind of fun to do that, especially if I had like a study or something, you know.
As long as it's got a good seal on it, go for it.
Yeah,
that's the big thing, is just keeping the humidity in, you know. And then it's going to depend on what part of the country you're in. So down here where me and Phil are, humidity is pretty much never an issue, even during the winter. Up north it's a little tougher, out west it's a little tougher. You know, it's going to depend on your levels of humidity where you're at. Altitude, I think, too, is going to play a factor. And you know, some people need a little more humidification in their humidors. Some people don't. So
Yep.
I have guys come in all the time and they're like, "Oh, my humidor is reading 68%. I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Dude, it's fine." I'm like, your humidor or your hygrometer is probably wrong, A, and B, it's like, I don't even monitor my humidor humidity at all. Honestly, it's I never have an issue with cigars being cracked or dry. And honestly, I'd rather them be a little on the drier side than too moist, because a cigar that's too humid is a real pain in the ass to smoke, because you have to relight it constantly and it's constantly going out, and usually they burn a little funny.
Yeah.
I'd prefer a drier cigar. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. The my bedroom is a ambient 32% humidity, just because we keep the air conditioner on all the time because it's South Florida. And when I switched from the wood, the cedar, to the pelican cases, because I was seasoning and seasoning and seasoning, and it just wouldn't hold humidity. It just wouldn't. And they weren't cheap humidors either. They were multiple $100 nice boxes. And I had two. I had one that was glass top and one that was completely sealed, no external dial or anything. And they just didn't hold for me. So that's why I switched them. Now I keep the one that didn't have glass. I keep the pipe tobacco in that, because that for me that can be a little drier. But I was getting really dry sticks, believe it or not. So yeah, I think you just got to feather what you got. You just got to trial and error. All of us that keep reptiles all have one of those little Exoterra digital hygrometers with the little LCD screen with the stick-on Velcro and the cord with the little probe. I throw one of those in there, and it always stays, for me, it stays between 68 and 72 on average. And I get Bovida packs that are 72%, and I throw one pack in and it just stays. So yeah, Dan Colgan says that, he uses Pelicans for all of his. They're phenomenal. I will say this, on brands like Pelican and Storm, they have an auto pressure gasket. So let's say you're a photographer and you have your DSLR in one of these Pelicans and you fly on an airplane, right? Well, you may check that. You may put that small Pelican in your check bag. It goes up in the airplane. It's in the belly of the bird, and it's pressurized. Well, now when you land, you can't open the friggin' thing because it's sealed, literally airtight.
Yeah.
Well, that pressure valve is however it's made, I don't know. It's auto-regulated, so it allows you to open the case without having to. It equalizes the pressure for you, essentially. There are other cases that are cheaper and more expensive that have a hand-movable dial. You basically turn the dial and close it like it's a screw. You just turn it, that seals it off, and then you can open it to release the pressure. If you're going to keep in those, I like to just keep it open to let the air flow. Now, you may notice that it's losing a lot more humidity, but at least you're having air exchange, unlike the one like I have where I constantly have to burp it. So, trial and error, test the waters. Yeah. Dip your toe in.
So I decided to do something a little different this week, and I am going to start doing this like each week now, and I'm going to do a cigar question of the week and a herb question of the week in the Snakes and Stogies group on Facebook.
Love it. Love it.
So the cigar question of the week to start off is, if you could buy a box of any one cigar right now, what would it be?
That's tough, man. That's real
Neither
tough.
of us answered because I figured we'd answer here. So.
Yeah, that's I saw it on Facebook. That was one of the two posts that I could see today. You want to go first or no? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go for it.
So I talked about it last week, but that new La Aroma de Cuba Pasión is quickly becoming a personal favorite. I really think that I hope that cigar gets cigar of the year because it's really good. So right now, if I could buy a box of those, I would in a heartbeat. Runner up would be the Warped Corto. I've talked about that one a lot. That's one that I'd really like. Nice little peppery, just bomb. And then Aromacraft Neanderthals, the HNs all day long.
Nice. Good choices. I want to say Liga Privada number 9 in a Toro, because that's just my jam. I have a good handful of them. and I kind of like I like the ability that like I just go and I buy one or two and then I add it to the box, and I buy one or two or three and I add it to the box. It's like the hunt for me, you know. But if I had the opportunity to just buy a box of anything and no money, right? I'm gonna buy those Novas, the Nova Platinum.
The Platties.
Yeah, the Nova Platy, because the thing is such a damn good smoke, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it's COVID and materials, whatever, it's been harder for me to find them. My one store that was the place I was getting them all from, they stopped carrying them, and now I have to go elsewhere to seek out other sticks. But those Nova Platinums are just too damn delicious. And after that, I would say honestly, Neanderthal, because I just can't get them, you know.
So we had a couple people answer. Vic of J Babies, he's in the chat. He said Macanudos and My Father's the Judge.
Nice, the Judge.
Which I do. So the Judge, I'm not crazy about in the bigger gauges, but in a Corona, that is a fantastic blend. That's just a personal preference because we sell a ton of them in any of the sizes. The Judges always sell really fast for us. So I mean, they are popular, subject to them. Just personally for me, like in those bigger gauges, they don't do much for me. But the Corona is a banger. So Thomas Irvin said Cro-Magnons, Romacraft. He was smoking Anthropology the other day. That's one of my favorite sizes. Like I'm convinced the Coronas and Toros and any of the stuff from them is where it's at. That's where those blends seem to work the best. Dan Fox posted a picture of a Cuatro Cinco, which is from Hoya de Nicaragua, which is a Drew Estate brand. Those are also really good. I haven't had one in a very long time, but that is easily one of Drew Estate's best as far as their portfolio goes. Elijah Day said Perdomo 20th anniversary Maduro. I haven't had a Maduro in that in a very long time either. We've only carried the Maduros of those kind of infrequently over the years. Hendog said Trinidad Fundadores. Haven't had those. I haven't had any of the Trinidads. Marcus said Monte Cristo number 2. Jeremy Carroll said Candy Cigars. Fair enough.
Nice.
And then Jeff mentioned Chaffio or Chaffiot collection. He said that he's heard good things about them, and every purchase helps save lives from human trafficking. So,
oh, nice.
I haven't heard of that brand. I'm gonna check into that and see if I can get my hands on some of their stuff and try it out. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of choices. It's hard to narrow it down to just one box, but
everyone, in my opinion, everyone picked top-notch stuff.
Yeah. Herb question of the week was: would you rather have more of an easier species to keep or fewer of a more challenging one? And I guess before we give our answers, I'll read through some of the ones that people dropped.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's kind of that'll be a lengthy one on our part, at least a little bit. So a lot of people said fewer of the more challenging species. Vic said having fewer of the more challenging species makes you more focused on caring for their needs as opposed to having a huge collection of easier species and neglecting them all. Miguel Villa, he might pronounce it Villa. I don't know if he pronounced it Villa or not, but he said fewer for sure. I think we were at 12 snakes or so, and I've been thinking about letting a few go. Andrew Keith said, I also chose having fewer overall specimens in favor of keeping more challenging ones. I have a big interest in most all herps, but I'm finding my little corner and narrowing my focus. Having 30 snakes doesn't do as much for me as having 10 that require more attention, work, and increasing levels of skill and knowledge. Not to mention the fewer I keep, the better I can keep them as far as caging size, furniture, etc. Stephen Poole said, fewer of the more challenging species. I like the engagement it requires, focus and satisfaction you get from moving past the hurdles. It becomes rewarding. Thomas Irvin said, fewer animals with better setups. Ewan Edwards, who's in Australia, said, work harder and have more of all. Dan Colgan said, easy, I'm lazy. Old Dan coming in clutch. Randy said, I like a challenge or I get bored. So he said fewer. Travis Wyman, Doc Wyman, said few but challenging. I would prefer to add to the net knowledge of the hobby and feel the best way to do that is by taking on the challenges, something less run of the mill, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Let's
All
see.
very valid and great responses.
Yeah,
I
Drew
see.
also said fewer, get more intimate with observations and records for feeding, breeding, larger enclosures, etc. as well. So.
Yeah, I feel like there's a general consensus. I would say that, with the exception of Dan's quirkiness, everyone pretty much said the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a very
I think that says a lot.
It does say a lot. Well, at least it says a lot about our group, you know?
Yeah.
And I love their responses. I feel like this question is a extremely, I don't want to say it's vague, because, I mean, let's be real, it kind of is, but it's vague in the sense that it comes down to everyone's individual taste.
Mm-hmm.
And also comes down to what people consider difficult, right? So, like, for me, I'm really not into chondros. I plan on having one eventually. I don't knock them. I think they're friggin' amazing animals. I commend all of my friends, because let's be real, all my friends have chondros except for me. I think I'm the only one of my friends that doesn't. But I would consider them more difficult than what I'm looking to do. But Justin may think, no, they're not difficult at all once you know what you're doing, right?
They're some of the easiest snakes to keep, man.
Other people may argue that. Other people have argued that. So, before I go, what do you say?
I know I've talked about it on THP, and I'm sure I've talked about it on here, but if I had to pick one, that's really tough, because I'm kind of with Dan, to where I do like the not having to think about things aspect of it. Call it laziness, call it whatever, but that's why my collection is corn snakes, and then it's, the Jansenii and the other stuff that requires a little more finesse. It's like I like to have the best of both worlds, where I have like the easy stuff like the Bairds and the corns, where I can just breed them and really enjoy them and not have to worry about what happens if my male dies in a pair and now I can't find another. Really, like with the Jansenii, if something happened to one of the Jansenii, finding another one that's really solid and not imported and already in rough shape and going to be a real challenge to get on the up and up. I don't have that issue with the corns and the Bairds and stuff, So, but having said that, I do also need that stimulation of something that makes me have to stop and say, okay, something's off, something needs to change. Like, clearly, whatever this small parameter is, that has to be finagled a little bit and changed. And breeding chondros, the incubation of the eggs and trying to get sort of the temperatures dialed in and where you want them so you have the best success, and then getting the babies going. Like, you get the peaks and valleys in that sense, especially with babies, because there's the frustration of none of them eating right off the bat, but then there's that high of getting them all to go. And then after that, they're all rock solid. And now it's like that sort of, you can take a breath and big sigh of relief kind of thing. So I see both sides. As far as picking one or the other, for the fun aspect, I mean, both are fun, but the corns and Bairds and stuff, it's so nice to just have them and not worry about them. When there's been times where I've had chondros that were, for whatever reason, went off food randomly, which is usually a sign of something that's not good. And I'm not talking about just males or something. But it does sort of, you lose a little bit of sleep over it. And
right.
I guess if you enjoy that sort of the medical aspect of things and you want to sort of change, you want to learn those things and you want to be better at it, which I do enjoy reading like the medical aspect of veterinary side of the hobby, even though I'm neither a tech nor a vet, obviously, but I like knowing that stuff. I like being able to handle issues on my own if possible. Because I think that's a learning experience, learning nebulizing gentamicin and stuff like that, and deworming and all that stuff. That's good stuff to have in your toolkit, your mental toolbox.
100%. 100%. I think that as cool as it would be, and as cool as it would be to have, a small handful of very difficult, challenging, unique species, the challenge of figuring things out and learning things is fascinating to me. I'm constantly thirsty for knowledge. I'm constantly thirsty for trying to be the best that I can with the species that I keep. However, I have had species that were very difficult. And I don't want to say like I got cocky, but I was like, you know what? I'm confident I can do this. I can try this. These people did this. I'm going to do this. And if it doesn't work, I know this might work. I'm going to try that. And I failed. And I either got rid of the animal, whether it be giving it away or selling it, or the animal passed away. And at this point in the game, I'm up for a challenge, providing I can have the assistance from my peers, whether it be physically or verbally or written, whatever. We'll use chondros because we're talking about them. Let's pretend that chondros were super duper difficult, right? Like way more difficult. Like they were harder than
they were 30
right?
years ago.
Like, or harder, right? And I said to myself, you know what? I really want to try it. I think I could do it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't have you and Billy and whoever else who has chondros already and is successful that I could pick your brain and get some help, because I wouldn't want these animals to perish, right? So to me, I don't want to say I would rather have a higher volume of easy species, but looking at it in that sense, I feel like almost all the species I keep are relatively easy. And that makes my life easier. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I can't augment their husbandry, right? Just because my Cerastes literally lives in a bucket of sand and it's happy and content, that does not mean that I cannot feather its temperature gradients and its light exposure and change up its enclosure constantly, switch rocks out, mess with the pressure in the room, however you want to do it. There's nothing that says I can't do that and focus and advance my own husbandry with a species that is easy, because all I'm doing is making it better, right?
Yeah.
So I almost want to say, and I'm not necessarily trying to play devil's advocate, but it's kind of falling in that realm, that I would almost rather have a room full of easy stuff that I could make better, because I don't have that worry of, oh man, I didn't give it water today. It's gonna die tomorrow.
I can't change anything because it might tip the scales. And
right, exactly. I can't look at it from the left because it'll see me and just die.
Yep. It'll stop eating, and then it'll never eat again, and it'll just fall off the perch.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, although people may consider cobras and rattlesnakes and I don't know, even carpets, right? They may consider them more challenging. They may consider them more exotic. When it comes down to brass tacks, they're all relatively easy species that lots of people keep. You know what I mean? I think the hardest species I have right now are the baby pyros. And that's only because I can't get the female to eat. But at the same time, I'm not too worried, because I have friends that have them and have bred them. And if push comes to shove and I really got a problem, I'll just mail the thing to Chris. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at least he can try, or he can, work his magic, or maybe the elevation plays a factor. I don't know, but I'm also not too concerned, because that female pyro that doesn't eat hasn't lost a gram of weight, because it's a montane species and it may go the entire winter without eating and be perfectly fine. I have no idea. We're going to find out. But the male pyro, I'm honestly convinced that he thinks he's a corn snake because he literally just eats anything I put in front of him. If I leave live prey in with the female and she kills it but doesn't eat it, I'll just feed it to him. He's turning into a cocktail straw sized garbage disposal. So, which is fine, let him eat it, whatever. But yeah, I think that I personally would rather have a room full of easy stuff that I can enjoy not stress over, but at the same time, I can still advance the husbandry and be the best keeper that I can be. So,
I think part of it too is like age. Like as you get older, you kind of don't feel like your tolerance for bullshit gets smaller and smaller, and you get to a point where you're like, yeah, I don't feel like having to deal with baby chondros or baby Antaresia or baby gray bands. You know, it's like corns are my retirement. You know, they're easy.
Yeah,
I don't have to stress.
But at the same time, now I can play devil's advocate because I could say, look at Keith McPeak, where
or Scott,
you know,
he's old,
or even I wasn't going to say that, but look at Keith McPeak, where, and I'm not calling Keith old by any means. He's still young in this grand scheme of things, but you look at someone that has bred so much stuff and done really well with it. And now he's focusing in on.
He knows what he's figured out over time that he's whittled it down to what he knows he enjoys and likes.
Correct. You know? And it just so happens to be that, like, for the example of the Bolins, he's focusing so hard on them because he has the veteranness about it. He has the experience that he can do these things. And hopefully he will succeed. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a big part of it too. And that's sort of where my main issue lies with the, you know, all the anti-rack people and stuff like that is, you know, there's a lack of, I guess, context and perspective, I think, with a lot of it. Like you have to keep a pretty diverse spectrum of species and stuff over your herpetocultural time.
Yeah.
To really have an idea of whether or not you think racks are bad or naturalistic vivarium are the way to go. And that's why I'm of the opinion, like, what works best for that species.
Yeah.
You know, it's like chondros do great in racks. Chondros do great in simple setups. Goniosoma, like the Jansenii, not what I would do with them. Can it be done? Sure. I think Rob's done it in the past with no issues, but personally, I think those need something that need more space, and they need that more naturalistic sort of setup with the live plants and some cork and multiple hides and bigger, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we used to keep red tails in racks, but you had to do all the other Gonyo stuff. You had to have a nice water bowl. You had to have good ventilation. You had to have fake plants in the drawer, and you had to leave them the fuck alone.
Yeah.
But how am I enjoying that animal that way? You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, in that aspect, you're 100% right. And even having mine set up the way I have them, I really don't see mine often. If I want to see them, I have to go hunt them down and look under the hides and stuff.
But I feel yours is way better than a little drawer for them.
Absolutely, and I kept the male in a 32 cord for a while when he was still smaller, and that was just because that worked. I had it packed with those fake ferns from Walmart that we're always talking about. I mean, just absolutely stuffed. And that just worked out well because that species just requires that. But it's my issue is the people that have only kept, 10 or less of sort of the bread and butter of the hobby, telling me that me keeping chondros in a rack is more or less animal abuse or something along those lines. It's like, it's bullshit. It's like, I have an issue with people who have never kept a species telling me how I should or should not keep that species.
Yes.
It just doesn't hold any weight with me. But Scott brought up a good point as far as the challenging species of like Atheris hispida. And that's one of those species that's on the list of it will just never do well in captivity. That is not a species that is just meant for captivity. Can it be done? Absolutely. But I think it's just on that list of like your average. I won't even necessarily say average, but most of your herpetoculturists will not fare well with those. Guys like Alex England, I think, would kill it.
Yeah.
Not kill it in a bad way, like kill it as in like do great.
Yeah, for two reasons, and tell me if you agree or disagree. One, he has the knowledge base and the means to provide the eccentric care that species needs, and he does snakes for a living. So he's not going to the cubicle 9 to 5 and then going home and having to deal with the hispida. So, I mean, and I'll be bold and cocky and say, I kept hispida and I had no problems with them at all. But if I was going to keep one now, just one, I would probably get rid of a handful of snakes simply so that I could focus on that snake. It needs more focus. Is it impossible? No. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes. Is it rewarding? Absolutely. So you have to weigh those pros and cons.
I look at them the same way I look at like dragon snakes. Same way I don't see anybody ever keeping Cybon.
Yeah.
Those snail eaters and stuff down there. It's just mud snakes, rainbow snakes. Like you don't see people keeping that stuff. And I think there's always going to be, and it's not going to be a super long list, but there's always going to be a handful of animals that you're never going to see in the hobby. And it's just because they require either too much, they're too specific. Or it's just not meant to be. You know?
Yeah, and I'll bring up two examples that come to mind real quick. The first one is Matt Most with his red stripes.
Yes.
So that's a species that, as we would say back in the day, it dies really well, right? It just like its sole purpose in life is just to die in your care, okay? He has taken the time to work with as many wild-caught specimens as he can to figure out what he needs to do for husbandry, what he needs to do for food, and what he needs to do for medical care, because they come in jacked up, right? And I can't use this dewormer because it takes away too much good stuff, and it kills it, things like that. And now he's got it dialed into the point where he's breeding them. He's, producing a captive bred animal that is infinitely better than the wild.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and guess what? The captive bred stuff is really easy to keep.
Exactly.
And how many animals did he have to kill to figure that out over time? Like that's one of those things that someone has to be the guy that's gonna be at the driving that bus on some species. They like Trooper Walsh, I think, was a big part of Green Trees with that and learning how to keep those alive in captivity. And there's all those species that Matt's keeping, man. Like I don't think anyone's ever put in as much time with as many different species as he has in terms of getting stuff established and on track.
The other one I was going to say is, hold on one second while I pull up. I'm trying to pull up the screen, but Google is yelling at me. It's not letting me load certain pages.
How many people bought some of those red stripes and they ended up dying and they were like, yeah, I'm never doing those again.
Yeah.
And it's because they didn't give it the full attention it needed, or they completely half-assed trying to figure it out. It was an impulse buy. They're like, those look cool. And then they get it. And a month later it's rolled and they're like, oh, well.
Yeah. So another one that on the same topic is, and maybe I'm contradicting my previous statement with what I'm about to say, but I'll give you a brief story. Recently, a friend imported some stuff from Africa, and a stiletto came in, and it was on accident, and it was just on death's door.
Really?
And and he's like, hey man, do you want this thing? Like it's probably gonna die, but like if it survives the weekend, like do you want it? And I said absolutely, because I've actually been I'm on an African kick, right? So I've actually been looking.
I mean, they're really cool.
They're really cool.
Weird group of snakes.
Right. Super weird. And that's what appealed to me the most is A, it's African. B, I've worked with them before many, many moons ago when I was doing import-export stuff. And C, I really want to try my hand at a difficult species that I have kept before and was fairly successful. I didn't keep them personally. I kept them at the wholesaler. And most of them, sold relatively quickly, so I didn't have as much experience as I could. But I was like, you know what? That is a species that I really want to get into. So I said, yeah, I'll take it. And it wound up passing away. I never got the snake. But I wound up messaging Nathaniel Frank saying, hey, man, this is a very long question, but any tips if I do get this one this is before it died. If I do get this one before it croaks, any tips on bringing it back up to speed? And he basically replied with, "Look, I would love to tell you, but this is way more. We need to have an actual phone call for this one." So I knew he was going to say that because I asked a dumb question. You know, how do you paint a house? Well, you dip the brush in paint. Like, no, I know there's more to the question.
Yeah,
So
how do you build a car?
Yeah, exactly. Like we'll have that conversation later on, I'm sure. It's also a lot better now because I mean, the thing died, so I got all the time in the world to pick the thing in his brain. But just doing that, messaging him, it made me really think. Like, we used to just throw them in a large deli cup with cocoa fiber, and that was it. Like, no heat, no nothing. And I'm wondering, like, that can't be the right way to do it. That could be a way to keep it alive, keep it going. You know what I mean? But that's not how it is in the wild. There has to be more to this. So I've gone down the rabbit hole. I bought the Edition Chimera Burrowing Asp Bible. So I got that coming in the mail.
They have a whole book on those, on just Atractaspis?
Yeah, it's Atractaspis, and it's all the species of Atractaspis from Africa and the Middle East, and then all of the similar species of snake, like the African centipede eaters and some of the burrowing colubroids. So it covers all those. It's a white cover, so I'm sure it won't be the most enthusiastic of books, but I'm very eager to get that book because
eating a bucket of sand.
I love it. I really want Bibroni again. I think that would be really cool. So, and we'll see. Again, I could get these animals, and I could hate them. I could say, you know what? I was a young, dumb kid, and I thought they were cool, and these species are not for me. But again, I have the ability to call up Nathaniel and be like, "Hey, bro, this isn't working. You want some more snakes for the Venom line?" You know what I mean? I have the ability to do that. So I think that. Yeah, I think that that's probably what I'll wind up doing is I'm going to do as much homework as I can because let's face it, they don't come in the country often.
No.
And when I do have the ability to get them, I'll get them, and hopefully I'll be more than ready with my arsenal of knowledge for it. So
I mean, those don't strike me as something that would be terribly difficult. I think it's getting them established and sort of like adjusted to captivity. After that, I feel like they'd be pretty straightforward.
Well, I mean, what we did was we had them, like I said, we got the large deli cups, the standard reptile show deli, right? I'd fill it halfway through with damp cocoa husk, right? Throw the snake in, it would burrow, and then once a week I would miss the side of the cage that was whatever side of the tub that looked the driest. And I mean, I would just give it a couple spritzes. It would obviously drink that dew, and then we'd throw in a fuzzy because they were always small.
Yeah.
Throw in a fuzzy. The next morning, the fuzzy would be gone. If the fuzzy was still there, I'd put an anole in, and the next day the anole would be gone. So, like, it wasn't rocket science, but I know that if I'm going to keep it myself, I have to be much better than doing that. That's just half-assing it. So
I see those doing really well on like a nice thick layer of aspen, and then nest rating, basically like trying to figure out a way to sort of formulate a little sort of nest setup that you could just throw some fuzzies into and have them do their thing. Because
I also think that what I was thinking in my mind was doing excuse me, if I could get probably, like, I was thinking actually doing a glass aquarium, a glass 20 long with the sliding screen, so I could still put a lock on it so no one's gonna open it, because let's face it, it ain't climbing out.
I don't know, man. If there are any, like, the Kenyan sand boas aren't supposed to be climbers either, but a lot of people have those get out somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you got a point. For all I know, I could be talking out of my butt. But my thought process was doing essentially as a traditional bioactive enclosure where you have, your bio balls in the bottom, your screen mesh, and then some kind of ABG or something, and then a bunch of leaf litter. But then I started doing more homework, and I'm like, well, the ones that we got in the past were Tanzanian,
right?
And they seem to do good on that fluff, right? The eco earth or cocoa husk. But what if I get something that's more arid? Because Bibroni come all over Eastern Africa.
I was going to say, the ones that I've seen videos of, they were in like savannas, like dry, like underneath hay and stuff like that. And
exactly. So I think it's really going to be important for me to learn locality as best as I can, or at least country of origin. You know what I mean? So, and now I
would think if the range is that big, they're fairly adaptable, I would assume. But
yeah, I mean, but who knows? I mean, you look at like Eastern Diamondbacks. Eastern Diamondbacks are arguably the most versatile snake in North America because it can live in extremely dry, higher elevation palmetto scrub, but it can also live in a below sea level bayou swamp, you know, in Louisiana. So you have tons of versatility. Now, if I took an Eastern Diamondback that's used to brackish water from the Florida Keys and I stuck it in South Carolina, it probably isn't going to do too hot. But there are Eastern Diamondbacks in South Carolina that do phenomenal. So I don't know. It's something I'm going to have to really look into. Yeah, but I'm excited.
There has to be some level of adaptability, otherwise they'd be extinct.
That's true. That is true. So, but I was thinking about that a lot lately, and then my buddy called me and told me about that. And I was like, man, now I'm going to do my homework, and I think that might be the next thing. So even if I just get one as a pet,
yeah, you know? That'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
They're cool snakes. I mean, they're so unassuming looking, but
yeah,
just absolute beasts.
Yeah. And in all the ones that I've ever played with, or not played with, but you know what I mean, all the ones I've ever worked with, none of them have ever been the crazy pinwheel defense that you see on.
No, really?
I've never seen one do that. So I don't know if, you know, taking them out of the wild kind of breaks them, or maybe I wasn't threatening enough, you know, because I mean, let's be real. I'm not stepping on them. I'm not molesting them in any way. I'm just single hooking them with a hook. I mean, even the ones I remember, like they wrote a hook really well. So, I mean,
did you ever see that Mike Clarkson got bit by one years ago?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Like years and years ago, it was on. There was an Animal Planet show I was bitten. I think they only did like one season of it, and Mike was on that, and it was he got bit by a stiletto.
Okay.
I'll have to see if there's a YouTube clip of it or something, but he talked about just that he said it was excruciating.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know, I think he got hit on the thumb, and his thumb just started slowly just rotted off down to the bone.
Oof.
They ended up, I think, having to like graft it to his groin or something.
Yeah, that's rough.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I know Nathaniel got hit by one too, right?
I don't know, did he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, but he had anti-venom on hand, and I'm pretty sure he had a wild ride even with the anti-venom. So, yeah, Henry concurred. I actually just found.
Yeah, that is why you asked Mike to give you the thumbs up. Anytime I see a post about stilettos, I tag Mike and I'm like, "Are you getting Vietnam flashbacks right now?"
You hear the choppers and Creedence Clearwater in the background. That's good. This is here. I forgot I had this picture. I just pulled this up. This is the biggest one I ever played with. This is actually a medium deli cup when I worked at Strictly. Can you see it?
No, I just see a white box next to our little boxes below the main screen.
You there?
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
I don't think so.
Hello? I cannot hear you.
Can you see me moving? Uh-oh. Ruh-roh, Raggy. Can you hear me now? Phil. Nothing? Can you guys hear me in the chat? Oh. Scott, blink twice if you can hear me. Billy? Oh, okay. Cool. He'll be back. Yeah, the stiletto snakes, man. Those are wild little critters. Speaking of things that got loose, I walked into my room earlier and I looked at my hatchling rack and I had one female suboc sitting there peeking at me, like watching me. No clue how she got out. I thought it was kind of funny. Bug-eyed Freak was just like, hello. Let me see if he's texting me. I just kind of laughed. Like, I saw it and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, how did you get there? Oh, Scoliocophus. Nice. Bill said kids didn't close the water monitor cage after their show on Sunday. It was still in the room thanks to the door sweep. Yeah, I just put her back, and I don't. That she's never like that's the first time she's gotten out. So I don't know if maybe it just like maybe I didn't close the tub all the way. I don't know what was going on. So who knows? Let me go check again later. But let me see. Phil is back.
I don't know what happened. I went to share the Facebook page, and dude,
you got zucked, man.
Dude, Google Chrome and Safari are both telling me that I can't look at this page and I can't look at that page. Then my internet cocks out. Then the screen goes black, and I was like, "What is this?" So yeah, I got zucked. But what did I miss?
I was talking about how I walked into my room earlier, and my female suboc was in my hatchling rack, just staring at me from outside one of the like shelves.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
It made me giggle a little bit. I was like, "What the hell are you doing, dude?"
Nice.
It's
nice.
just like, I don't know.
Nice. So this is a this is not a suboc. This is a bibroni, Actrodasmus bibroni, that I thought was actually probably the biggest one I've ever seen. That's a medium deli cup. It was a pretty thick, probably about the same size as a 2-year-old or maybe 3-year-old corn snake.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this one because there was no belly pattern. I mean, you can kind of see a little bit in the middle of that loop,
yeah,
but it was almost entirely black. So I thought that was cool. But yeah,
Scott, you have to use lids. If anything gets out in y'all's room, it's like probably gonna kill you.
I would say it probably is. So, but yeah, I think that I want to try the Actrodasmus because I feel it is a challenging species, but at the same time, I have a resource to gain extra knowledge and or pawn off the animal if I had to, right? But I do think that I would prefer to have a bigger collection of easier to keep stuff, at least stuff that's already dialed in, that I could expand their care and husbandry in the best way I could. And thanks, Scott, by the way. Congratulations on the tie pants.
My rack has lids because of Justin's stories.
That's good.
So glad I could inspire.
Yep, lids and shims, baby.
I don't know how she got out because that tub, I don't recall not having that tub closed all the way, and I know she was in there just the other day. So
was it cracked open?
No, I don't think so. No, not that I recall.
Because I was going to say is there's a chance where, retics are infamous for it, where they'll like push against all the walls,
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it where like a corn snake or a rat snake pushed open a tub with like the middle of their body just because they were stretching and it happened to push the drawer open, which is why I'm even if the drawer's snug, I use those wood shims because those things are legit lifesavers. So.
Yep, she was just chilling in the hatchling rack. And just looked like her little head was just sitting outside, and I walked in and she just kind of looked at me and I'm just like, what the hell are you doing, man? You found me.
At least it was in the room.
That's right.
Dude, she was just cruising the cut, bruh.
Yeah. I kind of laughed because I was like, you of all the animals would be up in like the most cliff cut like feature in the room.
Yep. She was just
It wasn't air
cruising the
holes. I mean, like, so where the handle is on that rack, there is like a hole, but she's never gotten out of that before. Like, she was smaller and she never got out of it. So the only thing I can think of is maybe I just didn't close it all the way. And
well, you got the camera in the room, don't you?
Yeah, but it's not plugged in right now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
just a whole lot of good there.
Rewind, you know. Be kind. Rewind.
It was a great movie. Did you ever? I wanted to talk about Vipera a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking through pictures for the graphics, and I was like, we don't talk about them a whole lot. And I was wondering, like, what your experience was like with them. If you ever kept like Amidites and some of the other stuff.
I have. So there was once a time when, how do I phrase this? Okay, so like there was so many different phenotypes of Amidites on the market that it really was the only Vipera that you saw.
I mean, it still is, at least in the States. I mean,
yeah. I mean, and like you do see other stuff,
just not as frequently.
Not as frequently, and I feel like all those different phenotypes, those are either gone or they've been replaced with other species now. And I was never really keen on them. It just wasn't my thing. I think back in the day, the Montaigne thing kind of messed with my head a little bit, and I was like, my room's too, because like back when I did work with them, like my room was like 80 degrees all the time, and it was all African stuff, and like I don't know, I never got into it. Now, Marcus has a pair of Amidites, and dude, those things are so freaking cool.
They are
so cool, and like he has a female that's a baby that's adorable, and then he has a male that's like a 1.5 to 2-year-old male. It's breeder size, and the thing is so angry. It's the most defensive snake like in his whole room. And he's a wall of Cerastes. Not a single one of them gives a shit nearly as much as that one Amidites. And I think they're gorgeous, man. I just never got into them. I give them mad respect. Now I will say this: one species that is 110% on my world bucket list, and this is so left field for me, is I want to go to Finland, or I want to say it's Finland. It might be Sweden, or it might be both. And the melanistic Vipera.
Have you seen the blue ones?
Dude, the blue ones, is it, they come out of Sweden?
I think
the blue ones? Dude. And like I have some friends that are venomous guys in Denmark, and they'll drive up for like a long weekend, and all it is just blue vipers. And that would be a hell of a trip.
And talking to, like, Nipper did an article on them, and it sounds like Burris are actually kind of tough to keep. Like, really? They're actually not that simple, like as common as they are. He swears that they need like outdoor enclosures over there. Like they do not seem to do well in sort of cage, like typical cages.
Yeah. They're the most widely spread as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They cover like 12 countries, right?
Yeah, they're almost like the Diones in the fact that it's like there's just a band that goes from like
Estonia all the way to England.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're also the only British viper, right? Or British Venomous. Yeah.
But I've talked to Nipper about him because me and him have talked about Vipera a good bit, and I remember him telling me that Burris, just for whatever reason, I guess compared to Amidites, they're considerably more difficult. And I don't know, man. My favorite out of all those, aside from the Amidites, is Kaznikovi.
I knew you were going to say it, bro.
Yeah, dude, that is just. We've talked about those before on here. We've showed pictures.
Yeah,
that's a whole group that I feel like is really. I mean, it's a lot of it. I'm sure has to deal with the lack of availability here in the States, but that's super overlooked. And seems to me that it's almost like an Echistrodon sort of thing where people are like, yeah, they all kind of look similar. There's really nothing. They're not sexy enough, kind of thing, except for Amidites sort of being the exception. I don't know. I love the variation in the Amidites. if we ever go over and see Nipper, we've talked about going to Greece and like finding some.
Oh yeah.
And
dude, like there's somewhere like southern Romania that have
Mhm.
like the most crazy geometric patterns, and I have Snakes of Europe that Nipper actually gave me. The photos in that book are just insane. You don't expect this stuff to be in Europe. You just don't. And one of my favorites is the Terralog Venomous Snakes of Europe. And
I
I
still
think
want all
Venomous
those
Snakes of
books.
Europe, dude, I want all of them. I haven't bought the Australia one yet. Scott, don't kill me. But I need to get the Venomous Snakes of Australia, and I think Oceania too. I think they call it. But in the excuse me, in the Terralog book for Europe, there's one picture of an Amidites from southern Austria, and it is bone white with jet black zigzags and a blood red tail. It is the stormtrooper
They're badass
of
looking
vipers.
snakes, man.
Yeah.
And I've heard they're also surprisingly hot compared to other members of the Vipera group. They're
Oh yeah,
pretty potent little suckers, man.
Very much so. People give them a weak reputation because they're European or they're small, and it's like, no, man, you will die very well. So
just see if we can find a bite report on those, because that'd be interesting to read. We've had people wanting to bring back the bite report thing, and we keep forgetting. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, we need to. And even if we don't do, I mean, there's plenty of bite reports that we could probably do a bite report and this, but I was also thinking about doing in lieu of or in addition to clinical effects of certain venoms or certain species, because we read these clinical diagnoses of a particular envenomation, and it's a shitload of medical jargon. So I was actually thinking about taking the time and to bust out the old glossary and my thesaurus and find out, what some of these terms mean, break them down, laymanize them as best I can, and kind of give an idea,
Yep.
Oh, this blah, 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 blah means high blood pressure. So
this one means you're bleeding out of your rectum.
Yep, that'll happen.
I got those. I got these bimaculata from the Crawdaddy.
Yeah,
they're freaking awesome.
I saw a picture you posted. Was today or yesterday?
Yesterday, I think. They're in quarantine. I've already fed them, I think, twice. Yeah, I fed them again today, but they're cool.
Yeah, very cool, man.
Even as closely related to the Diones as they are, they're still like having both now, and not, being that these are adults and not babies, and having them compared to my Diones, they are different. They're.
Yeah. I think I like the bimaculata better.
I think I do too.
Just visually,
Yeah.
There was once a time when you could give me the Pepsi challenge and I couldn't tell you which one was which, but just watching most, looking at Messenger's book and stuff, and I think I like the bimaculata a lot more. I think they're cooler. They don't get as big as Dionis either, right?
No, I mean, I was actually something I was talking to Messenger about the other day, because the pair that I got from Zach are supposed to be like 5 years old, and
really
the biggest one of the two is, I won't say half the size of the Beijing female Diones, but
wow, that's the one you were holding in your hand.
No, that was the baby Diones.
Okay.
If you're talking about that was the picture I posted today. Yeah, that's the Siberian Beijing baby.
Okay.
So, yeah, I haven't really played with the bimaculata too much. I took some pictures, I think, yesterday, but they're neat. I like them.
Yeah, I always considered the bimaculata, like in my mind, to me, I felt like they, and I could be completely wrong, I felt like they filled the role of like where we have a decay, where you have this fossorial, fairly stout colubrid that is not, it's not taking the prey of, say, a Colognathus or something, or Elafe.
Right.
It's doing all the stuff that the Elafe is not doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think they're pretty nifty, man.
Yeah, Billy sent me a PDF on them, like on Bimaculata specifically. That was really good. I mean, there's really not a ton of information out there on them, aside from sort of the like standard size, standard diet. There's not a lot of detailed information on them, and that's why I like Messenger's book so much, because it, even the species that we don't even really see in the hobby here, they're still laid out in that book as far as care and stuff like that. And I mean, it's pretty brief, but
yeah. Did you where did you post that picture of the Bimaculata? I was on Facebook or Instagram. I can't remember.
Let me see. So there is a picture of one of the Bimaculata on Instagram.
On Palmetto Coast?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the one in your hand, it was the Dion's. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the Dion's.
Yeah. All right, here it is. I got it. Sharing. Let's see if this thing crashes again. There we go. Yeah, man, that thing's awesome.
Yeah, and I need to get some outdoor pictures of them because you really can't see the detail. Because they're twin spotted rat snakes. And actually, from that PDF that Billy sent me, there's like 3 or 4 different forms of Bimaculata. One of them being the stripe form like that, where there are still like twin spots down the back that's just so dark because they're in that dark stripe, the dark stripes on the side, that you can't even really see them.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because, like, if you know what to look for, you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mm-hmm. You have that secondary row. See, it's down there. But even, and I'm sure it has to do with the lighting too, because like you totally lose them back here. But they have great head, man. Great head, very Asian rat head.
Yeah, yeah. I think you can really tell the difference in them when they're babies in the Dion's compared to the Bimaculata too. Like that's when it's sort of obvious.
Sure.
The Dion's baby, they look like the one that I posted. The Bimaculata look a little more. They're lighter in color and their pattern is considerably different. So.
Yeah, here's the Dione baby. There.
That little thing's a monster with food too.
Nice. I love how the spots are offset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can see here, it's every other band, I guess you'd call it, and then you still have this faint lateral line.
Yeah, it's got that weird
breaks
fade
it up
from like that gold on the top to the.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Scott says wouldn't that niche be filled by Gloideus, which is funny because it would, and the way they strike is so much like the Gloideus and Echistrodon. It's kind of comical.
Really?
Because it's that like very short, like maybe not even like third of the body, like first third of the body. It's like the neck, and it's just that little snap.
Yeah, but see, I can agree with you that it would be, but to me, like let's compare this to North American species, just because that's what we're comparing Echistrodon and such. If I'm going to put, say, Elafe carnata on the top of that predatory list, right? And then I've got Gloideus in the middle. Well, we've got Pantherophis in North America. Then you've got Echistrodon in the middle. Then you still have your below species, which would be what I was considering that fossorial leaf litter or whatever. I feel like that fits into that more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm talking about more in the context of like mimicry, and them sort of filling that void a little more. Just like that new species that they found recently that mimics the Protobothrops that Jared and I so well.
Which species is that?
You didn't see that? What?
I don't know. It's newly described or new
Yeah,
found?
yeah. Well, both newly found.
Really? What is it?
Let me see. I'm trying to remember.
I feel like I missed this.
There's no way you did because I was talking about it for like a week straight.
Well, I also had the nameless virus. So.
Well, this was also like 3 months ago.
Well, then I'm just forgetful. I'm sorry.
You just suck.
Yep, that'll happen. Bill says, small colubrids with rings, Scoliocophus. He loves his banded little noodles.
Yeah, I just sent it to you through text. A picture of the Jared and I mimic.
Dude, I don't remember that.
How do you not remember that?
I don't remember that. That is awesome.
It's the freaking coolest thing. We talked about it on the show.
I don't remember that, bro. Look at this thing. I would remember this. That is impressive.
Let me see if I can look. I need to look at what the scientific name was. Oh, yeah. So it's a Lafay shut up. Acrobat. Elaphe zyphodonta.
Elaphe zyphodonta. That's pretty cool. And that's just recently found?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
But it's called that because the dentition on these is considerably different from other Elaphe.
Okay.
Because they have some teeth. I'm trying to find the picture. That are like, they're wider, but they're flatter. I'm looking at the paper right now. Enlarged posterior cutting edges on both MT and DT. They're now in 3 rows of large black bordered reddish brown dorsal blotches. Yeah, there's a whole paper about it. It's pretty damn sweet. Let me see if I can find the better pictures of it.
Very cool. I'm actually looking at other ones now. Excuse me.
Zyphodonta. The mimicry is just ridiculous, man. I send you picture.
Oh, man, now it's doing this. It's doing this thing with Google again. It's not letting me look at stuff.
Johnny Barrett had a question. He said, how's it going? I have an ethics question. If someone sells you a missexed animal, what can the customer reasonably request to make it right? And how far should the seller go to make them happy?
It's difficult. I think it depends on the relationship, and it depends on the terms, and it depends on how bad of a mess up it was. I mean, if it's something that's incredibly difficult to sex, I mean, if it's like a corn snake, well then, hey, you got to make right on this. Either, pay for the shipping back, or, send another snake and come to some kind of compromise. I mean, it depends on. You just have to talk to the seller, right, Justin?
Yeah, Is your reputation worth the hassle of a missed snake?
I mean, I wouldn't even go so far as your reputation as much as you. Yeah, the ball's in your court, providing that the seller wants to play ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you can only do so much. There's some people that they're gonna try and squeeze as much out of you as you can, and at some point you do have to sort of draw a line. But for something like that, it's
right. And I mean, I guess
it's pretty easy fix. It's either you give them money back or you give them another snake. You know, it's
or if you really want to do the whole shipping and swapping thing because your heart's set on this one particular species, I mean, you do what you got to do. I don't know. I've also been guilty of waiting too long. You know, I bought what was a pair, and to me it looked like a pair. I didn't probe it. I just eyeballed it, and I was like, that's a good pair. And then a year later, I put them together, and nothing happens. And I was like, what the heck? And I probe it. I'm like, I got two boys. Great. You know, but that's my fault. I'm not gonna call the guy a year later. You know what I mean? That's my own fault for doing that.
If it's like a week, that's one thing. But if you're coming back to me after like a month and you're like, hey, these aren't sex rights, I mean, yeah, I'll probably still work with you in some capacity to figure something out. But it's like if you come back to me a year later, it's like, bro, you had all the time in the world to figure that out. That's on you.
Yeah, and he says you wanted a female and you get a male, find out it's not, so now you're out eggs and project specific. I don't look at it like that because there was no guarantee you were going to get eggs. There was no guarantee that, you know, anything was going to happen. This is all future endeavors per se. So if you bought a snake on a Monday, you got the snake on Tuesday night, you found that it's the wrong gender, well, then you fix things. But you can't say, at least in my opinion, you can't say, dude, you sent me a male and I wanted a female. Now I'm out all this money and time. Well, no, because you didn't do any of it yet. You know what I mean? It's a mistake. Things happen. Now there could be a guy or someone who's like, watch this, and then you never hear from him again. Well, that's what it sucks. It's the internet. So I think communication is key. Try and talk to the person. Say, hey man, I wanted a boy and you shipped me a girl. What are we going to do? How do we want to do this, as they say in corporate world, moving forward? I mean, you concur?
Mm-hmm. I think it's also, you know, buying from the right people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly. Let me share this photo of the comparison. Yeah, don't tell me that's not mimicry. You know?
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
You don't get that acid green with that burgundy.
Yeah.
By accident.
Yeah. It would be really cool to have those Alafe. That thing is super cool. How cool would it be to have both of them in the same enclosure? That would be cool. Show the difference, you know. Providing that the Giordani doesn't eat the Alafe. You know? Just going back to
Bothrops.
Right. Just going back to Bill's Scoliocophus, I was again reading up on Actrodaspas, and a species that's usually lumped in with them. I butcher this scientific name. Homorelaps, which is the African Harlequin snakes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is not this. This looks like a centipede eater. And it's just crazy that an entire world away on a different continent, you have a snake that is so similar. So here is Scoliocophus, which is the centipede eater from South America. And this is what Bill keeps. I don't know exactly which species Bill has. But
speaking of headaches.
Well, and again, this is perfect because Bill has a wide collection, and he has these animals. He has quite a few of them that are extremely difficult and very specific husbandry, but he's dialing it in, he's focusing on it, and it's not affecting anything else. And I think that's fantastic. So he's getting the best of both worlds, right? But there's that. And then here is the African Harlequin. I wish I could do a bigger split screen just to kind of do the compare and contrast.
Yeah.
It's so similar, even the head structure. So obviously they have more. Are you
sure they weren't just released over there?
Yeah, right. So just thought that was nifty. Hopefully Bill's still watching.
He is.
Okay, good.
He said excellent. Killer stripe on the African species.
Oh, nice. There we go. Yeah, and I'm eager to. I'm hoping. I'm praying that Bill has been documenting every step of his centipede eating project, whatever you want to call it, because I think that would be a fantastic article for Herpetoculture Magazine.
It surely would.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Billy. So, yeah, I think that would be awesome because I know Underground got a lot of those in. I know they sold a lot of them. And I know just from talking to my roommate, he vividly would say, you are aware these are subterranean species. You're not going to see them, and they only eat centipedes. And they sold them. So it's not for due diligence, So hopefully other people are, doing what Bill's doing.
I want some Nachschlagen.
The Nachschlagen.
Those I saw some at Daytona, man. They were cool. I was so tempted, but I was like, just not dealing with.
Well, what bothers me is we saw them at Daytona, and we know exactly how they got there. Those were not captive bred. That was some dude drove down from West Texas. And I don't know. I know that having been there and seen it, and it's not the same, man. And that goes back to talking about crayfish snakes. Mm-hmm. Crayfish snakes are awesome snakes, and they're awesome pet snakes, but no one can feed them
unless you're the crawdaddy.
Unless you're the crawdaddy, right? So
that's when talking about Texas, that was probably one of my favorite species that we found, man. Those little night snakes were so cool.
Yeah, man. And
it's a blast.
And you didn't have the enthusiasm of, say, a rattlesnake or a rat snake or a king snake, but we still loved finding every single one,
Yeah.
And then that last little tentilla that Doc found,
mm-hmm.
Dude, I had never seen anything like that. He's like, yeah, this thing's probably 3 years old, and it's literally the length of my finger. Amazing. And to think, that little creature lives on that one side of the highway.
Yep.
And it has no idea that the rest of the world is out there. Just amazing. Amazing. The Nachschlagen.
The Nachschlagen.
Oh, man.
I would never be able to look at one of those and not hear that.
Yeah. I actually messaged Stone earlier about, because they're going back out to, I don't know if it's Arizona or they're going back out to West Texas, but I'm pretty sure they leave this weekend to go do some more desert adventures. So I look
Bobby
forward
Rock.
to Bobby Rock. What was it? Bobo Pebbles or something?
Bobby Pebbles.
It was Bobby Pebbles. That's it. Bobby Pebbles. Oh man. Yeah, I got to re-listen to that Student of the Serpent from before our trip with the guy who does all the Alterna and stuff. And it's crazy, man, because now that we've been there, like you hear about like Alpine and Sanderson and and like we've been there, and like that's amazing. How many times
I saw the stuff with the Haitians in Del Rio. The only thing I think about is like, that's the worst Chili's in the country.
Dude, how about
Del Rio? I don't even remember seeing a bridge in Del Rio.
Dude, remember when we went to the Mexican place for food right before we left South Texas? I vividly got that text message from Verizon Wireless saying, Thank you for visiting Del Rio. Welcome to Mexico. Press pound for your extended minutes, blah, 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 blah. And like, we were there, man. We were there. So
this is the biggest disappointment of a Chili's.
Yeah. But we were there. That's all that matters. I think it's funny. The first thing that we did upon arriving in Texas was go to Chili's in Del Rio.
I made it very clear that it did not have to be a priority by any means. But
of course it did. So of course it did.
It's like, look, I'm just along for the ride.
Look, it had to be. We had to go to Chili's. And I'm really glad that we went through the like Loma Alta area, even though we didn't find any rat snakes. But I think that was quintessential for Justin Smith and his endeavors. So
you can't go to Texas and not go to a Chili's, right?
That's true. What's funny is I was talking to somebody about, they were talking about something at work, and I realized I never uploaded any of the photos to Facebook. Normally when I do a herp trip, I'll come home and I'll edit stuff, and then I'll make like a folder of my photo albums of all the photos from the herp trip. And I didn't do that for Texas. So I have to go through and I got to do that with little captions. And I like doing that stuff. It's fun.
So who was at, someone was asking, where do we stay when we go to West Texas? And I almost said Stripes.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Dustin? No.
Yeah, it was.
Was it Dustin? Yeah.
So where do you guys stay when you go to West Texas? Stripes.
Yeah, right. Oh, man.
Stripes
Mrs.
Motel.
Baird's Donuts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how you knew. It's like, that's there's no way that's a coincidence either.
Yeah.
People know.
No, of course.
Texas knows what's up.
Texas knows what's up. I love it. Well, anything else that you wanted to cover tonight, sir?
I don't think so. Scott said, are you surprised that wildcats still come in? He said, reptile people lie.
No, I'm not surprised at all. In fact, I have no problem with wild-caught stuff as long as it's the right species done right. You know what I mean? And that it's made abundantly clear, hey, this is field collected.
Yeah, full disclosure.
Full disclosure. I mean, I can't do half of my 2/3 of my collection right now is field collected. And they're all doing
impure.
They're all doing tip top. So, keep on trucking. Actually, the more I think about it, let me put some brain cells together for a second. Actually, everything. No, that's a lie. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, Scott, the one lep we saw the entire trip was in a bucket with some people that were clearly taking that home.
Yeah, definitively poachers in a protected area. We just found it right on the side of the road by the trash can. Yeah.
I hadn't seen one the entire week, but all of a sudden, dude, there's one right here next to this swing on a public park.
Yeah, picnic table.
A picnic area.
Yeah. So,
give me a damn break.
Of the venomous stuff I have, 4 of my animals are captive bred. Everything else is field collected at some point. But like my cobras, my true cobras, my nausea species, I've had them all of them over 10 years. They're all at least 9 to 12 years old, So there's nothing wrong with field collected stuff, providing it's not protected, providing it is not damaging the ecosystem despite its protection level, and providing that it's made aware upon sale and that the animals are being taken care of appropriately. So
that's why I have no issues with imported chondros. I just have an issue with people getting their first chondro being an imported chondro, because it's...
Yeah.
Let me tell you, can it be done? Absolutely. But
should it?
You're going to be frustrated. It's probably going to end up in the freezer.
Yeah. Just because I can doesn't always mean I should.
Bobby Pebbles was a nickname for the RZA and the Wu-Tang Clan. I forgot about that.
Scott would know that. Scott would 100% know that. All right. Well, on that note, anything else, sir?
I don't believe so.
Well, thank you, everyone who partook in this evening's show.
This was episode 93. Brought to you by Gendra at Puget Sound Pythons. Checketh them out. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. Give them a follow. Give them a subscribe. Subscriptions.
Give them a
whatever.
Click subscribe. Just subscribe to it. There's a bell. It has little lines on it. Just click it.
Hit the like button, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications. All the stuff that every YouTuber ever will say.
Yes. Make sure you give them a thumbs up, providing that you were not bitten by Atractaspis.
Yes. Finger melting good.
Finger melting good. Jesus, bro. Ugh. Ugh.
Does this look infected?
Oh, God. Private, smell that leg. Tell me if it's the South of cheese.
Jesus. All right, y'all.
Good night.
Later.